All right, and I'll go ahead and get started because we have a very packed schedule and some wonderful women to hear from today. So on behalf of the Women's High Tech Coalition, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thanks to our panelists and speakers for your participation. I am going to turn it over to Hilary Cain, who is the Vice President of Technology, Innovation, and Mobility Policy, who will introduce our first speaker and be our moderator for the day. So thank you so much, Hilary, and welcome everyone.
Thanks, Christina. And as Christina said, I'm Hilary Cain. I'm Vice President of Technology, Innovation, and Mobility Policy at the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, and I'm pleased to serve as your moderator for today's event. Before we jump into this, I'll just say that there are three things that I really enjoy talking about. One is women leaders, the second is innovation, and the third is the auto industry. So an event that focuses on women leading innovation in the auto industry is basically the best event ever, as far as I'm concerned. But to get us started with some welcome remarks, we are delighted to be joined by Robin Hutcheson. Robin is Deputy Assistant Secretary for Safety Policy at the U.S. Department of Transportation. Robin joined the Department of Transportation in January, and prior to that, she was Director of Public Works for the city of Minneapolis. So Robin, I'll turn it over to you for a few comments.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have been invited today. This seems like a really powerful group that I want to be connected with and have a chance to talk with. I have always been drawn to organizations that lift up the work of women. And I have always been working in an industry that has been primarily male dominated and has benefited from having a network of strong women to lift up and bring up other women. So I'm really honored to be invited. Thank you so much. My title, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Safety Policy for the Department of Transportation. There's a tremendous opportunity for innovation to serve safety. It's an amazing crossover topic. And I'm looking forward to relying on great partnerships to advance safety in transportation by harnessing all the potential of innovation. It's our number one priority. If I look at the potential for innovation, I need only to think about how rapidly it develops. It's so fast and it accelerates over time. And just 20 years ago, we couldn't have imagined that a cell phone could call up a bike or a car. And that kind of rapid acceleration also creates opportunities. We used to need a supercomputer to do what laptops can just crank out now. And it makes big data so much more accessible to us. And that is a lever to help inform what we hope to be better decision making. There's so many other kinds of innovations that the pandemic has brought upon us out of sheer necessity. Everything from opening our streets to people to now near ubiquity of e-commerce and ordering ahead. They have a huge interaction with the way we move around space and certainly for transportation. And I want to say that, US DOT, we want to be a strong advocate. Our leadership and a secretarial priority is being a strong advocate for harnessing these innovations to solve some of the toughest problems we face. When we do it right, we're doing it together. We can make our transportation safer, more efficient. We can create high quality jobs, achieve equity for all Americans, tackle the climate crisis, and really drive innovation to reduce deaths and serious injuries on our nation's transportation network. There are so many ways that innovation supports this bold agenda for the Department of Transportation and using it for good. There's really two things that I want to talk about and as the most opportune application. One is safety, and two is women in the industry. In safety, 38,000 people died on our nation's roadways. A disproportionate number of deaths happen to pedestrians and bicyclists, and that number is climbing, and it's concerning. There is so much potential here. Airbags and seatbelts are two examples of innovations that at a time in history were thought unthinkable. And once incorporated into our motor vehicles, saved tens of thousands of lives. And at USDOT, we're thinking about what are the future safety technologies that could prevent crashes from happening in the first place and mitigate harm to users, all of the users of the roadway system. This requires us to think really big. It's not just people inside the vehicles, it's people traveling outside the vehicles too. And I'd love for us to think about how innovation in this space can really level the safety playing field for all of our users of the network, inside, outside of vehicles. The second thing just to touch on as we open up your panel is gender equity. Transportation, like technology, has traditionally been a male-dominated sector in terms of the number of women in the workforce sector, and also in the way that systems have been designed and operated. Just one small example, big example, small example, relevant to the conversation today is, considering women's physiology and how we have yet to fully understand how both design and safety features can prevent death, save lives, prevent injury. And it's an emerging field that we all want to double down on. For gender equity, women need to be represented at every stage of transportation and engineering. And that means we need more women in technology and innovation who understand distinct needs of women. It can and should be an engine for equity, including equitable safety outcomes, and embracing diverse perspectives and leadership styles is critical to changing how we plan and deliver results through transportation investment. So, some broad brush strokes here, and then a couple of two thoughts more specifically on the importance of your work in advancing a safer, more equitable transportation network that supports our goals for climate. I'm really humbled to have been invited. Hilary, thank you so much for aligning this invitation. I am looking forward to hearing the panelists. I'm going to stay on if that's okay. I have a lot to learn here from you all. So with permission, I would love to listen along. And I'm just really humbled to have been invited to speak with you today, and really looking forward to the rest of these powerful women on the panel. And thanks so much for leading the way here.
So thanks, Robin. I mean, we are thrilled that you are where you are at the department in this important role, and we very much appreciate your perspective. And of course, you are welcome to stay on as long as you would like. So
thanks so much.
With that, let's go ahead and transition straight into our panel discussion with two true leaders in the auto industry who both, interestingly, happen to be named Kristen. So Kristen and Kristen, thank you for joining us. And maybe we can just dig right in and give you each an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourselves. Tell the audience sort of who you are and what you do and who you do it for. So maybe we'll start with Kristen. We'll go alphabetically. So we'll start with Kristen Seaman and then hear from Kristen Tabar. So Kristen.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And really, it's an honor to be here. And the other interesting thing is we both spell our name the same way, which I'm sure through your life you've experienced. There's many options. So I'm Kristen Seaman from General Motors. I'm the Vice President of Sustainable Workplaces and the Chief Sustainability Officer. My career is actually parallels the other Kristens quite a bit. I've been with GM for over 27 years, and I have led various engineering functions, global teams, everything from advanced safety technologies to our electrical organizations. Most of my career has been in product development. I came into this role about 6 months ago and currently working to across our company and with our internal and external stakeholders on really trying to accomplish our bold ambitions that we set in January of last year around our carbon neutral goal for 2040, and then our aspiration to eliminate tailpipe emissions from light duty vehicles by 2035. So really excited to be in this role at this point in time. I really think the industry's at a an inflection point as we see a lot of transformation happening towards an all electric future. And you asked who I do it for. I would say as a mom, I have 3 sons who my life, obviously, any spare minute revolves around them on a field somewhere as they drag us around various sports, et cetera. But really looking at, our responsibility to make sure that we're protecting them and their future, and that, there will be a world that is inhabitable and for them and for future generations beyond. So really excited as I transition a little bit out of some of our work in the autonomous space and our goals around zero crashes and the focus on zero emissions. So just a really exciting time, and thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. Kristen Tabar.
Hello, thank you very much, Hilary. As was mentioned, I'm Kristen Tabar. So I'm the Group Vice President at Toyota R&D Center in Michigan. That's where our engineering teams are located. And very similar to the other Kristen, as was mentioned, I've been with the company just under 30 years. So it's kind of incredible, but it's true. And a few more common things. As you said, I've spent the bulk of my career as well in product development, although I have had some opportunity to work in a few other spaces. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that in the future questions here. Also, Michigan native. I grew up here in Michigan, went to school here in Michigan, and also have 3 kids, although one differing point, I have 3 daughters instead of 3 sons. We gotta have something different, I guess. But anyway, yeah, very excited to be able to talk with everyone today. And much like my co-panelist, just excited about the transformation that our industry is going through. The opportunity definitely to contribute to that, through the work of my teams, through the products and services that, Toyota and our competitors are putting out there, and just really excited to see how the customers jump on some of these opportunities coming forward. Thanks again for having me today, Hilary.
Yeah, so maybe before we dive a little bit more into sort of the career part of this and what it's like to be a woman working, at an auto company, I want to get your take on sort of what is, and I have a feeling I know a little bit of what you might say here based on your background and what you're working in, but what emerging automotive innovation excites you the most? What are you most looking forward to? So we'll go backwards this time. Kristen Tabar, let's start with you.
I have been waiting for autonomous driving since I started working at Toyota. I love the systems coming out right now. To be honest with you, I love to drive. So I'm really intrigued by the systems we have emerging on the market today, where there's times and places, the most mundane driving, that maybe the vehicle can take over. You can, do a little multitasking, which we're kind of good at. And then other times that are just, super beautiful day or really interesting trek, or, you're in a new place and you want to explore, you can drive. So I love the fact that that kind of technology is coming into place. But not only for me, I think it offers so much opportunity for, again, consumers, extending their drive life, making it safer, when we're in those, heavy influence at times, or heavy congestion or big traffic, or, really monotonous drive. Anyway, all those different scenarios, I think that's the most exciting thing right now and offers the most potential.
What about you, Kristen Seaman?
Well, it's hard to argue with Kristen, but, and I think about GM set our vision back in 2017 around zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. And I really do think they all play together. We see in AV future or autonomous future as being an electric future. And really, when you do have the opportunity to experience both of those, GM's been on a path towards fully autonomous with our Super Cruise feature, and you think about driving, and as Kristen said, in the auto industry, you get really excited by our products and you want to get out there and you want to experience them. And then you go on a long drive I'm also from Michigan. And so we drive that long drive south to Florida on 75. And you don't realize how taxing and exhausting it is on you to go through turns, to pay attention to everything that's going on. And so to be able to offer that extra veil of safety with either semi-autonomous or eventually a fully autonomous driving, it just makes the experience that much better. And then you tag that on to an electric vehicle that, again, once you drive one, it's really hard to go back. That instant acceleration, the quiet, very fun to drive. And then you pair all of that with what it can do maybe when we are fully autonomous, and fully zero emissions, all electric, and you can give people time back from a congestion standpoint, because there are less crashes, vehicles are talking to each other, whatever technology comes next. It really just, it's the most precious commodity, again, as working moms, any extra minute you could give me in my day, I'll take it.
Yeah, no doubt. So you're both in very prominent roles now at your respective companies, and I'm curious, let's flip to the sort of career trajectory side of this conversation. Was this all part of your plan? In other words, did you develop a plan, to sort of guide your professional growth and then stick to that plan? Or was it a little more haphazard, right? Opportunities presented themselves and you sort of took them and somehow you ended up where you are. So maybe Kristen Seaman, if we could start with you. Was this a plan or did it just happen sort of randomly on its own?
Yeah, no plan, extremely haphazard, but I would say that, I do lots of mentoring and, believe very strongly in a lot of the DEI initiatives and that we're doing. And I would say a couple of things. One, although haphazard, if I could go back and tell my younger self to take every opportunity, which I would say in most opportunities I did, and those are the ones that I grew the most, the ones where, you got the phone call and they asked you if you wanted to take on a certain opportunity and you're like, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Those are the ones that you grow the most. And I think have really pushed me the most in my career. And, a lot of it comes from opportunities. It comes from, always being and doing your best. I think it's important to focus on the job that you're in and doing that the best you possibly can, but continuing to keep your eye open for what else might be out there. And those are, again, the ones I think that I've grown the most from. Kristen
Tabar, what do you say?
It's really been a bit of both for me. I think I did have a plan. I am a big proponent of, always sort of thinking ahead, thinking where you want to go, maybe thinking a job or two ahead even, to try and give yourself a good path. But honestly, the most important thing for me has been just flexibility. I think just like Kristen mentioned, the best assignments I've had have been ones that were not on the plan and, ended up just being tremendous growth opportunities. So I agree wholeheartedly. I think, it's good to sort of give yourself something to work towards or be always assessing, where are you at? What skills should you be working on? What aspirational positions do you see in your company or others that, you'd like to try your hand at? But at the same time, when something different comes your way, not being so worried about, as you said, maybe, oh, I'm not ready for that. You're ready. If they're asking, you're ready. So you got to take those chances and really get every last bit you can out of each one of those. And that will definitely take you in new directions.
Great. So thanks for that. I think it's safe to say, I think we would all agree, like many other industries, that the auto industry is still rather male dominated, particularly within the executive ranks. And yet, here you both are in critical executive positions at your companies. So I'm interested, you've talked about this a little bit already in terms of talking about taking risks and taking opportunities when they present themselves. But in addition to that, are there any other skills that you think, have helped you succeed as a woman in this industry? And maybe Kristen Tabar, will start with you on this one.
It's a really challenging question. I think it's very dependent on, the roles that you're taking. For example, each role that, I took as I moved through my career, I think a bit of it was, some skill that I had, and a bit of it was just the opportunity, the timing was right. They needed a little different thought, or they needed someone with an expertise in a certain area. So I think it really is kind of dependent. I will say one thing that I feel like has served me well is I really feel that making strong relationships within the company and having a strong network within the company has always been an advantage. I'm very interested to learn about other aspects of our business, again, whether that's internal or external. And I think a lot of that perspective really gives you some advantage when they're looking at people who can make connections between different parts of the organization or create teams that have cross-functional perspective, and actually understand how different functions work together, even if they don't work together at that exact moment. And so I think that piece has been a big advantage from my point of view of making me, a candidate for some of these positions, as well as I'll say the second thing, which is just openness and willingness to, yeah, I'll try that. Yeah, I'd like to do that. Oh yeah, I think I have an idea for that. I think being forthcoming with ideas and solutions, maybe when you're not the obvious person to turn to for the solution, also tends to be a big factor in some of those decisions. So those would be my maybe two big items, I'd say.
Great, thanks. Kristen Seaman.
Sure. So I liked what Kristen said, of course. We're very much aligned in our way of thinking as well. I would say one of the things that traditionally women have been, maybe given credit for is what some may call soft skills, relationship building, networking, being a connector. And we've talked a number of times of those really becoming success skills, and they play so strongly in how you're able to navigate, difficult situations. There's lots of people with technical depth and expertise in that, but really being able to build those relationships across teams and have that network of bringing people together, I think is extremely important. And the other one I would say is allies. We have throughout my career, I've had a number of male allies, anything from leaders that I worked for to peers to people even that were on my staff, as well as female allies, but really having that network of people to support and go to, whether it be for advice or insight or connections. And I think that's helped tremendously over the years.
That's great. So, you've talked a little bit about what helped you be successful within your companies. I'm just curious, do your companies, does GM or just Toyota have programs within the companies that are specifically targeted to helping other women succeed and excel, or are you sort of on your own? So maybe Kristen Seaman, we'll start with you. What programs does General Motors have in place?
Yeah, I would say definitely not on our own. Starting with a very strong ERG or employee resource group of GM women. We recently, a few years ago, started an ally program within that, where we really are working very closely with our male leaders on what they can do to be better allies. And one of the really neat things I think about that program is we've focused on those that do it well. A lot of times in corporate initiatives, you tend to focus on what's broken. In this case, we focused on what's a strength and how to replicate and share that across the company. And that's been a huge win. Another program that I would say is probably the one closest to my heart is our Take Two program, which is a returnship program that we started about 5 years ago, back in 2016. And it's an opportunity for individuals, mainly women, who've been out of the workforce for 2 or more years to come back and have kind of a soft landing into the company. When we started it, we started it as a 12-week kind of internship program. We just recently announced last week that we're transitioning it to a direct hire program, but it has been just an extremely rewarding, of all the things I've done in my career, probably the most rewarding to see these individuals come back. We've had individuals who've been out anywhere from, again, the 2 years to the longest is a woman who is out of the workforce for 23 years. And to see the confidence growth from day one to, you know, a few months in is just been super exciting. So really looking at, you know, across the company, I would say there's programs for new hires, for existing professionals to retain their expertise and that diversity, but then really focusing how do we continue to bring more diversity into the company.
That's great. What about at Toyota, Kristen Tabar?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, very similar. I think we also have a really strong, it's our most senior business partnering group for women. And again, very huge ally program amongst that, that is supported by, you know, our male colleagues throughout the company. Certainly lots of specific mentoring programs for high potential female, sponsorship programs as we move up into the executive ranks, as well as partnerships with external companies and groups that support ongoing, as Kristen mentioned, kind of ongoing skill development and, again, networking to build on some of the best practices even from outside of Toyota. So I feel like similarly, it's at every stage of your career throughout Toyota. I think there's touch points for females in our company to grow and get visibility, but also get opportunities to understand how the company operates and, you know, what other areas they could potentially move into throughout their career.
Great. So our time together is coming to an end, if you can believe it. Like, this has gone so quickly. But I want to play a little bit of a lightning round game with you really quick as we wrap things up. So I'm going to give you the option of two things, and I want you to pick one. So for example, Kristen Seaman, if I said coffee or tea, you'd say?
Coffee.
Kristen Tabar? Okay.
Coffee.
So we're going to do a few of these. So power or influence? Kristen Tabar.
Influence.
Kristen Seaman.
Influence.
Okay. Listen or talk? Kristen Seaman.
Listen.
Kristen Tabar.
Listen.
Wow. Okay. Competence or confidence? Kristen Tabar.
Competence.
Okay. Kristen Seaman.
Confidence.
All right. Okay. Last one. Patience or persistence? Kristen Seaman.
Ooh. Persistence.
All right. Kristen Tabar.
I think persistence as well.
Wow. We have alignment across.
We're exactly the
board.
same.
We're basically the same person. Right.
We need to meet in person.
That's right. That's right.
Well, with that, I hate to say this, but our time is up. But thank you, Kristen and Kristen, for joining us today. Thank you for all of us who were able to tune in, and to Robin Hutcheson. We really appreciate your welcome comments. And I felt like we just scratched the surface. But till the next time.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, and have a fantastic.
Thank you, Hilary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hilary. It was a lot of fun.